Welcome back to CEEN Caribbean News. It's now time for In Depth. In early April, the parliamentary opposition in Barbados, the Barbados Labour Party BLP, announced its intention to move a motion of no confidence against the country's government in Parliament. The reasons given to the media by the leader of the BLP, Mia Mottley, for the motion include the country has been staggering from crisis to crisis, singling out the country's recent downgrade by ratings agency Moody's, the Cahill waste-to-energy controversy, recent industrial strikes, and ongoing environmental problems at some government-run schools. She says on these issues, the government continues to remain silent and comatose. But perhaps that silence was broken when Prime Minister and leader of the ruling Democratic Labour Party DLP, Frondell Stewart, spoke out against the no-confidence motion, saying he isn't fazed. He says this is the third no-confidence motion against his party by the opposition, and they were not successful in their first two attempts. He also dismissed the threat of a no-confidence motion as being in the interest of the country, noting that it comes up now because Ms. Mottley is coming to the end of her tenure as leader of the BLP. The current government has a one-seat majority over the opposition in Parliament. So will a no-confidence motion be successful this time around? We break it down with political analyst and of Barbados, Ms. Maureen Holder. Welcome to In Depth, Ms. Holder.
Thanks so much for having me, Candace.
Now, in mid-April, when the threat of the no-confidence motion was mentioned, it was noted to take place a week later. But we haven't heard much news of it since, aside from the government ministers rubbishing the reasons for the threat. Is it that the motion was not tabled, and is it a situation where it will not be?
Okay, Candace, the notice was filed, but as I understand it, the Speaker of the House has some issues with it and was sent back to be reworked. I think there were some concerns pertaining to style and language. For example, there are about, I think, 21 quote-unquote whereas in the document. But as you know, Candace, the government is not obligated to accept as a no-confidence motion any document that comes before them immediately. But the government reserves the right to determine when the matter will be heard, and once a date has been set for its hearing, it then takes precedent over all other government business to be discussed in Parliament on that day.
Now, the last no-confidence motion was in 2013 and it was unsuccessful. It is the same situation now where the DLP has the majority in the House and it is unlikely that its ministers will vote positively in a no-confidence motion. So why is the opposition pursuing this?
That's a very good question, Candace. You see, a no-confidence motion is intended to send a clear message that the elected members of Parliament no longer have confidence in the country's leader or the cabinet. But in order to prove that such is the case, the opinion of the House would have to be tested by a vote of no confidence. Now, Candace, I know that you're aware that the strength of a no confidence motion is in its ability to defeat the government that it's being brought against. So for a no confidence motion to succeed, one must secure majority support, and I will say no more on that. However, taking the matter of the no confidence motion to its logical conclusion, you want to achieve basically two objectives. One, get a compulsory resignation, or two, have directives given to the Governor-General to dissolve Parliament and call an election. I can tell you now, as we speak, that none of the two objectives that I just mentioned seem likely to happen. The opposition leader herself has already admitted in her comments, she has admitted to the defeat of the no-confidence motion by stating that they are not expecting a parliamentary majority. So I guess the opposition leaders want to answer the question as to why she's still pursuing the no-confidence motion, as it is her right.
Now, one of the reasons given for the no-confidence motion is the silence of the government on the key issues concerning the country, such as the recent Moody's downgrade. Do you agree with the opposition's claim? Should the government be more vocal on these issues?
Well, let me answer that question this way. The 2016-2017 estimates were just debated in the House in March, and that basically outlines the operating capital spending requirements for various ministries for the fiscal year starting April 1st, 2016. Now, we are expected to have the budget speeches presented sometime in June, and I can assure you a lot of discussion and time will be spent on the economy. And I'm guessing that either the finance minister or the Prime Minister himself are probably going to use the occasion to address the Moody's issue, and speak about the IMF most recent projections for growth in Barbados, which the average growth should be around 2.5%. And of course, other plans related to how Barbados' economy is going to grow and what they're going to do to help improve things in Barbados.
Prime Minister Frundell Stewart insinuates that Ms. Motley's attempt to move a no-confidence motion is all owed to her demitting office later this year and her fear of the outcome of the party's elections in October. How will this no-confidence motion help her alleged bid?
Well, first of all, Ms. Motley cannot run for the office of party chairman or chairman of the party, whichever way you want to put it. I think in the Barbados Labour Party they are only allowed 3 terms to hold office as party chairman. But this is her last time holding that position. After that, Ms. Motley has to step aside and allow someone else to contest for the position of the new party leader, I should say that. I'm not sure that there's a direct connection between the no-confidence motion and her stepping aside as chairman of the party. But I think it would be quite interesting to see how many of the senior parliamentarians on her side actually show up to take part in the debate of the no-confidence motion once the date has been set for it to be heard. That's going to be a very interesting dynamic.
Which brings me to my next question. If this no-confidence motion fails, is it likely to have a negative impact on the reputation of Ms. Motley and by extension the BLP, or would we see the reverse?
Again, a very interesting question, Candice. Look, I don't think many are expecting too much out of this. I think it's symbolic and it's basically counterproductive. That's my opinion on it. And I believe that only Ms. Motley is in a good position to say what it symbolizes. I consider this no-confidence motion to be just another of Ms. Motley's tactics. She has been using a number of tactics in her efforts to gain popular support for herself and the opposition Barbados Labour Party to defeat the Democratic Labour Party in the next general elections. And nothing is wrong with this. Nothing absolutely is wrong with this. In terms of seeing a reversal, it's too soon to say. I think that Ms. Motley has been employing a number of tactics which has not quite worked in her favor, and come October when the internal party elections will be held, we may likely to see some changes and surprises. That is all I can say at this point. Other than that, I would need a looking glass, so to speak, to foretell the future.
Thank you so much for joining us on In Depth, Ms. Holder.
Thank you.